it's like, oh, let's not fight until every 6 minutes is up. I liked the adaptations that the teams made last time. I liked Team Dignitas taking the Corki, taking the Victor away. The problem was the Azir from Sayo was pretty on point that game.
Well, the Ancestors talked about optimizing picks. We're going to see the bans first. Shen and Wonderware's Gangplank, along with Sivir, will be banned out from Mouse, and Twisted Fate, Elise, and Fizz will come out from Team Dignitas EU. Shen and actually, those are all the same bans from Mouse once again. This is the third game. We're still on blue side for Mouse, still on red side for Dig. Rek'Sai is open. Are we just going to see that first pick?
This leaves Evelyn up, that was banned in the previous 2 games. I'm interested to see whether Dan is going to opt for Evelyn. I feel like his Rek'Sai has just been so much stronger. Wow, that's a massive change coming out from Mouse.
First pick, Azir feels very confident in that. Usually don't see too much of that, more of the Victor first picks, but okay, that will be brought out by Mouse, so they've left the jungle open. Now looking towards what Team Dignitas EU take as their first couple picks. They have a bunch of options.
They do. I mean, this now allows them to take away the Rek'Sai. I guess on the other side, they still have the Eve available if they want to go for that now that it isn't banned. I'd like to see Team Dignitas getting a lot more engage from somewhere. I mean, okay, in the first game they ran the Annie. The problem was, against the Cleanse Victor, it just didn't work. Now they're against somebody with a lot of disengage. Did Team Dignitas just change up their entire strategy here? Go for something completely different?
Well, before we've just seen them, as we mentioned, optimize, not optimize their comp, but look towards the dragons constantly. It looks like the pickup will be Rek'Sai here. This is basically the other half of Obvious's champion pool, aside from the Echo. Alistar will be brought out as well, so that will deny it away from Mouse. But as you mentioned, Evelyn is still up if Dan wants it.
Do we just see the Janna come out here? You play Janna Azir with so much disengage from the Mouse side that Team Dignitas are never going to be able to engage in that situation. We saw the Alistar come out for Mouse in the last game. Just as a reminder to everybody, this is the 3rd game in which Mouse have been blue side, Team Dignitas have been red side. Game 4, which we will be going to, will be the opposite. It'll be the first time in which Team Dignitas are playing on the blue side, but we are on the same setup as games 1 and 2. So in the last couple of games with the rotations like this, there hasn't been particularly many patterns for Mouse when it comes to this second round of picks. In the first game, they picked the Janna and the Victor. In the second game, they picked the Fizz and the Azir, and the Alistar. So neither of those are available for this game.
But it very much has been a pattern in their compositions and what they were looking for. The carry top lane, either the Victor or the Azir in mid lane. Of course, Sejun's either going to go for a Sivir or Corki. If those two are taken away, he'll go Lucian. It's all very scripted out from Mouse and what they're looking for here. That will be the Corki once again. Sejun will definitely want to have his hands on that. That actually, over the Kobe, he'll have to go to a B tier pick as well here.
Yeah, what has he played previously? He's played the Kog'Maw a couple of times. This could be... This is a very defensive setup around the Kog'Maw.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, there's not too much more defense that you can get, and it's somewhat of a flex pick with the Lulu. Could be top lane still. So looking to put a lot of focus onto Kobe. This is a massive departure in playstyle for Team Dignitas.
This is definitely different, but we've seen Dignitas run full-on protect the Kog'Maw compositions and also kind of semi-ones as well. But right now they have the Lulu for that. They could go for like an Orianna mid lane. They could go all in on this.
Right, they could look for an Orianna, something like that mid lane, or they could look for a Maokai top lane and put the Lulu on to Senkux. There is a lot of options available. They know that the Hecarim and the Azir are already locked in, so now it's a matchup dependent thing. Is which do you feel more comfortable in? What setup is the most comfortable for your team? They could try the Tahm Kench again. It's another factor of protecting Kog'Maw. You just kind of eat him if he gets into too much trouble, but hasn't been the case.
Alright, so Sejuani going over to Dan. Alright, we actually haven't seen this for a while, but that's his most played, and I use that term loosely because he's played every other champion once, and then had 3 Sejuani games very early on into the season. He had some very good games on that champion, and we'll be bringing it into this game. Braum was the other pick coming in from Mouse. And yeah, as you mentioned, there's a lot that could be picked up by Dignitas here. It could be mid, could be top, could be anything.
I think if you're going to go for something like a Nautilus, the Maokai with just Home Guard Teleport may be that little bit more effective. You get the damage reduction, you get a lot more hard crowd control when it comes to actually point and click. Yes, Nautilus has his ultimate, but from there it's all hooks and auto attacks, so it's a little bit trickier to actually get. Interesting to see what Wonderwear goes with. He's played 2 games of Maokai, 2 games of Nautilus, so he is comfortable on both.
Yeah, we've seen him play both of those champions. He could go for Nautilus here. Of course, Nautilus is the best champion in the game, so I would help him out.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that, please. It's locked in, though, for that Nautilus. So, team comps are locked in. This is a lot more of an older MOU's composition from about weeks 1 to 3 in the European Challenger Series. Massive engage potential on Dan, on that Sejuani. We've seen him almost single-handedly win late-game team fights just with one Sejuani ultimate. This is pretty much his bread and butter.
Yeah.
This is what we know of Dan to be comfortable to carry a game.
He can carry a game, he can initiate. This, as you mentioned, is a composition we saw very early on by Mouse, likewise by Dignitas. This is also going back into their playbook. Their arsenal has definitely changed, and it's interesting we're seeing this change up coming into Game 3, where both teams are even and looking to change up their play styles a little. I'm very interested to see how this one will work out. Of course, the Hecarim now coming in from Beansu. Remember, that's 9-1 currently in Challenger. That has only upset the perfect win rate in the semifinals.
Yeah, that top lane is going to be one to watch out for here. Hecarim into the Nautilus as we get into this one. It's going to be a very intriguing setup here. Very different from what we've seen in the first 2 games of this series, and Team Dignitas are pulling a lot of their eggs into the basket of Kobe on that Cogmore. So, I mean, the analysts has talked about them needing to change things up. This is a big, big change.
From both teams as well, Stress. Remember to let us know if your favorite has shifted. Tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtags MOU win or DEU win, and we'll see who you think has the edge in a few moments. But we're about to get into this 3rd game of this best of 5. The teams are dead even, 1-1 apiece. Team Dignitas EU versus Mousesports. Game 3, let's go.
Let's get on to the Rift. And, you know, it's not quite the same as the old Juggermore compositions that we've seen before. And, you know, Protect the AD comps never really went out of style. There's always teams trying to run them. I mean, you can also see this kind of setup fairly often when you watch LCK. Every now and again, somebody will be like, let's pick Cogmore and just protect him for the entire game. And pretty much has been a staple composition for a very, very long time. However, if Mouse do manage to get onto Kobe before he becomes just a massive carry, it's going to be tough for Team Dignitas if Kobe doesn't snowball through.
Good stuff. It's Sejuani's battle cry. It just confuses the opponents. They don't really know what to think. But Sejuan is sitting in this top lane. Is he going to fake this out? He puts up the Frostbomb. So Wonderwear knows there's a Corki there now. And will he just recall and go bot lane?
The chorus of wards placed up in the top lane. As you know, it's interesting, once again, going back to what the coaches said at the beginning of the day when Quickshot was talking to them. You know, Broken Shot was talking about how it's not only about having the team play around Senkux anymore. It's around Senkux playing around the rest of the team. And that's the kind of role that he's in here. Because Senkux is not on a champion that realistically he should hard carry with, as a Lulu from the mid lane. It's all about Senkux now focusing his attention on Kobe and keeping him alive. So very different dynamic here for the Team Dignitas setup for this game.
But is that the right option? Because, okay, he'll do fine on the Lulu, but he's not going to carry the game 1v9 like, you know, there was that joke in Spring Split. But this is very, very different now, as he will be protecting Kobe. But Kobe has been extremely consistent in pretty much every single game we've ever seen of him. He never, or very rarely, has a bad game. He'll just do well. If he gets ahead, he'll quadra your team. He'll just have a good game.
Yeah, when you look at his stats from the previous games before today, he pretty much has been the top AD carry when it comes to his KDA and all of his stats when it comes to farm. But Senkux in this middle lane dodges out the chair. No disqualification coming out through this one for the Mouse setup. So Senkux manages to keep himself alive.
Yeah, Nisbet has been sighted by their squad as he roamed from the bottom lane, trying to get this roam onto Sayo. Meanwhile, Mountain was off to the side, so he was able to defend him. Teleport now comes into the bottom lane by Beansu, so we'll get the one-on-one against Kobe. The lane swap was initiated from Mouse with Sejuan and Mountain going to the top lane. Now Beansu and Mountain will go to the bottom lane with Nisbet following in tow with his Cogmore. So honestly, Cogmore will be able to farm in this lane fine.
Yeah, realistically, Beansu can't pressure Kobe at any point in this lane unless somehow Mountain manages to like get a Q, jump forward, land an auto, and try and set up the passive. But it should be a fairly straightforward laning phase for Kobe just to passively take down the farm. And looking at the farm in mid lane, 17 CS to 10 in favor of Mouse. The early game, once again, somewhat going their way. They are a couple 100 gold up right now.
Got to see how many minions he gets from the minion wave that hits turret first, but yeah, still a 4 CS differential in the mid lane. Obvious heading into the bottom lane here. There is a ward there, so if he tunnels over, he's going to be sighted immediately from Mouse, so there is time to react for them.
However, no flash on Binsu. If they push up here too far, flash Q coming out from Nisbet would start this one off.
Well, the flash into the pulverized by Nisbet knocks Binsu into the turret, but he doesn't get tower aggro. Obvious now coming in, flashes, gets a knock up, and Obvious will just knock him into the turret or force him to go backwards. Kobe may be dropping it, he has been ignited, gets that first blood, is healing up from his potions. And he's actually good to go, so Binsu was just forced to trade.
And that was a bit of a greedy push out from Binsu. You've got to remember, you're playing Hecarim with no flash. You're running Teleport Ignite. It's a repeat performance again, perhaps, for Obvious, but with that ward there, this time you can see Mountain way further back in the lane is just going to sit there. That's just greedy by Binsu. To be honest,
yeah.
You have to respect the flash pulverize coming out from Nisbet.
The flash is down now though, so it wouldn't be happening for a good while, but still that first blood going over to Dig is something that shouldn't have really happened. And Wonderware was jungling for the longest time with Obvious, and now is actually ahead in farm over Binsu. In the top lane is just being able to get Musabat. Sedrin hasn't put down enough harass to keep him away from the minions. He's faultless. He has 2 Doran's rings as well, so he's really just geared up for this laning phase.
As a reminder, Sejuani featured heavily in the jungle meta for a while at the beginning of this split. And the tail end of spring. The problem was she had some damage taken away from her from that Flail of the Northern Winds. And from there, we didn't really see her too much because you needed so much time. You needed to sit until 6 to try and farm up. Your clear was reduced. So mid lane, Sayo doesn't quite get the dash
over the wall. And Obvious looking to keep Sayo in place. Senkux follows up as well. The flashes burn from Sayo and the barrier, burning 2 summoners for the price of nothing.
At this point, Team Dignitas are getting some very fortunate ganks in this early game, getting summoners and getting kills from mid and bottom lane. And again, Mouse are just shoving up pretty heavily, and a lot of it is to do with the fact that they can't really afford Obvious getting into the enemy jungle and finding Dan because of how difficult it is for Sejuani to get through this early game. You can see though Obvious hasn't yet backed away, so that pressure really is not in effect right now. The difficulty is if they haven't got the waves shoved up, it becomes easier for the Team Dignitas laners to roam out of the lane and get themselves into that skirmish.
Right now, there is not a lot of movement in those lanes. They are still staying in place. Wonderware is still ahead of his counterpart of Binsu. Dan goes into the bottom lane, but has been seen out by this ward. And will be taking away that tunnel in the bottom lane. So Obvious, as he gets towards that level 6 mark, won't be able to get down there instantly. Nice hook by Wonderware, lands onto Sedrin, also gets the staggering blow. He also has his ultimate, may be able to pop it there. Now he's
gonna go for it now.
It's a little late. Uses the E, gets him! Despite that, underneath the turret, even the heal from Sedrin was not enough.
I mean, this is once again just Mao's misplaying in the onset of this game. I mean, Sedrin goes into a minion wave with a cannon against a Nautilus and just ends up falling. Now Binsu teleports top lane to just take the wave from in front, but that was just Sedrin completely blundering that laning phase. Now Sayo, no flash, but does have the jump.
I mean, that's why Nautilus is the best champion in the game, am I right? But no, yeah, that was just a straight-up misplay.
Okay, he's the best champion in the game at landing a hook in that situation where you can all in with an ultimate after it.
Points and click. Got him.
Oh, dear.
But Sedrin had the chance just to walk away there. He didn't have to stay.
He got greedy for farm that was about to push into turret. He was actually trying to put the first minion within last hit range so that he didn't lose it to turret. He felt like he was safe and clearly wasn't.
Nope, the Titan of the Depths will find you. Titan of the Depths? It wasn't that case, but Titan of the Depths, more like. Mountain puts that ward over the wall. We'll be trying to clear away this pink ward in the mid lane. Senkux is going to zone away from that and take this ward. And while place another one over the wall, Sayo comes back into mid lane after picking up his blue buff. And aside from these like individual ganks, there's a lot of farming going on in this game. Of course, that's kind of what you expect from the mid lane. Senkux is playing Lulu, who essentially just does that. So does Sayo on Azir. But now the lanes have gone back to normal. Wonderware is laning against Beansu now, 60 farm against 44, but he's already itemized the Glacial Shroud, so he's doing fine against the AD damage.
And the lanes have been pushing in favor of Team Dignitas for the last couple of minutes. This is the moment for Mouse to exploit that. They have the Sejuani ultimate up, they can look to engage, and maybe try and equalize some of the early game damage that has been done to Mouse. A little bit of ward clearing over the wall for Sayo, but I mean, this is Sejuani's time to shine. You've got the ultimate, make the first one count. Get yourself into a lane and lock somebody down. The problem is the summoners are all available on the bottom side of the map. The only real place where that flash is down is on the top side, and that's because Wonderware just used it to get a kill.
Mountain is only level 4, by the way, in the bottom lane, but I think Nisbet is the same, yeah, as they have been doing a bunch of roaming. Also, as Sejun was in a solo lane for a long time. Obvious moving towards his middle lane. Must know this is warded actually, because Senkux was trying to clear that very ward that he's standing on.
Yeah, that's just a miscommunication and missed timing on the ward being down from Team Dignitas. They should have known, as you said. And interesting that that's a bit of time spent, but you know, gets the crab in the end of it. Honestly, right now is the time that Team Dignitas should, in theory, be at the weakest point. This right now is before the Cogmore has scaled up. It's somewhat difficult for Team Dignitas to actually contest when it comes to damage output this early on. It's not Mouse's strongest time to fight though on the same side. They've got Nazir. Corki doesn't have his Trinity Force either. And Hecarim right now doesn't even have level 2 boots completed, so is pretty much on parts of his core components.
But look at this stress. The Obvious has actually gone for the Warrior enchant on Rek'Sai, which is obviously different from what Dan has been building, going for the Cinderhawk into whatever else. But it kind of makes sense in this scenario. You have tank on top lane. Lulu doesn't do a billion damage late game. This bet is a support. And Copy's the only other real damage threat, so it's actually going to come from Obvious this game. Yeah,
they need just that bit more damage to come through in the earlier fights as well. As we said, until Cobby becomes a monster, it's going to be a lot more in favor of Mouse when it comes to the earlier fights. Very heavily dependent on whether Senkux can get the wild growth up onto Cogmore. And then the rest of the team appeal for it. But this is a better start from Team Dignitas, getting themselves into the game early with those ganks. Same situation right here, though, for Obvious. Looking to get into a warded brush. Headbutt goes through.
Lands onto the Mountain. We'll be using Stand Behind Me. But the flash on the knockup from Mountain. Nisbet, does he have any more CC? Doesn't look like it. Sejun turns around, puts the damage back onto Nisbet with the concussive blows coming in from Mountain's passive as well. Another living artillery will probably send Mountain packing, but ultimately Dignitas don't get anything from that game.
Well, they get the flash from it. Mountain didn't have his ultimate available and still doesn't quite yet, so there's a lot of damage coming down. Now Wonderware is going to trade against Beansu, as Beansu, as we said, not anywhere near even a completed item yet, so it's pretty squishy. Can't really afford to trade up against Wonderware because Wonderware just hits that Titan's Wrath and says, okay, try and stay next to me. I'm going to deal a ton of damage to you right now.
Trade with me now. Obvious. Clearing out his jungle, not doing a whole lot, but taking a look at the fan vote, definitely shifted from the first game, 59% over to Mouse this time around. Dignitas creeping up with 41%. But yeah, kind of just reflects how even this series is so far. Definitely had a couple long ones, Stress, as the Dragons were the priority in the first 2 games. But Dragon has not been slain at all at 12 minutes into this game. And the objectives are very different for both teams.
And my real focus on this game is going to be how well does this Azir play out, in the sense that Team Dignitas knew that this was coming. It was first pick from Mouse, so everything that happened after first pick, Team Dignitas had in mind with the Azir. I guess they would have assumed the Azir being left open would have made it an easy pickup for Mouse. How do Team Dignitas play around that? How do you shut down the Azir? It doesn't look like they need to right now because they're shutting down the rest of the map as Beansu loses all of his health. But Senkux is dangerously close. Mouse could look to engage.
The slide, the glide onto Senkux, but
Dan didn't go in. Not only that, but Dan didn't go in on that. He had his ultimate. Sayo had his ultimate as well. Were they afraid that Obvious was around? I mean, they get the ultimate from Senkux and don't really burn anything for it, so it's not the worst play in the world. They will have now a fair amount of time if Senkux plays this in an unsafe manner that they can capitalize on this. But I like this out of Team Dignitas. The only problem is they haven't cleared the ward that's in the back of this pit. So MOUs are already moving around to it, but Warrior Enchant Rek'Sai is starting to clear this down. Azir is on the way. No wild growth available for Lulu. This one looks like it's going to kick off the fight. The Dragon has already fallen in favor of Team Dignitas, and they're trying to back out.
Try and disengage, but the Emperor's Divide will put an end to that. Nisbet has already ulted, so he's going to be shrugging off that damage as the teleport comes down from Binsu, and he has nothing really to do here. Actually, he cancelled the TP there in the top lane, so he's still in that top lane right now. Sayo dropped low, but no one died. But Dignitas pick up the first Dragon, just like game 1.
First ult that came from Dan was a whiff when it comes to actually hitting champion. Senkux did have to burn his flash during that engagement, but that is a big engage tool now not being available. Obvious going to jet ski his way into the jungle and chase out the boar. I'm not really sure what kind of terrain jet skis and boars can coexist on, but
it's too much for me to think about. There's too much going on there. Oh, the spy duck sees all. Kobe clearing out these minions, and I mean, Kobe is not gigantic, right? He also hasn't been back in a very long time. Still sitting on that sheen like he was maybe like 5-6 minutes ago. He's actually sitting on 3,000 gold.
Yes, he's set on a lot of gold now, and that's going straight back into a Trinity Force, and probably just grabs a pair of boots alongside it.
Lich Bane.
I'm gonna play AP Cogmore in the bottom lane. No, that's... Ooh, new item has been completed. Zeke's Harbinger. That Frozen Heart went into the Zeke's Harbinger onto Nautilus.
So where?
Very interesting. Well, remember, this composition is about getting Kobe ahead and keeping him ahead. So Zeke's Harbinger is an item that will bind you to an ally. And then from that, when you're close to each other, you generate charges by attacking, casting spells, lots of different ways. At 100 charges, what happens is you increase the ally's ability power by 20% and critical strike chance by 50%. So that Cogmore is going to hurt. When he starts hitting people with that Zeke's Harbinger built up.
This is so interesting, because we were thinking about champions who that actually works. We're actually going to hold that for a second, because Obvious is just trying to zone down a mountain out of his jungle. But yeah, Cogmore would be the perfect target.
Right. I mean, it really would. And, you know, with Nautilus as well, it gives him a mix of mana, armor, ability power, CDI. It's not the tankiest item in the world. Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't going to really reflect on Wonderwear being overall tanky. But, you know, again, this is Team Dignitas playing for a selfless game. If Kobe steps forward like that too much without his teammates around, it will be a tricky one, but you can see he does have enough movement speed to get himself away once that Whimsy was used on him. Very selfless game for the solo laners of Team Dignitas. It's all in on Kobe getting ahead.
So the only other time I've really seen this item being built was Alex Ich in North America,
right,
who built it on mid lane Orianna to help an Urgot of all champions. And yeah, it did a lot of damage, but he was way far ahead at that point where it didn't really matter what he built. This is actually with a plan in mind this time around.
And I mean, keep in mind, the extra AP, although it's not a massive amount, that's going to make those Riptides that Wonderwear has been maxing all that more difficult to get away from in a 1-versus-1 situation. Or not get away from, the damage
it's gonna hurt, okay?
Yeah, the Riptide is going to hurt. So interesting setup here, something very different.
Yeah, I wonder where he goes from here, because remember the old build on Nautilus was the old build was Righteous Glory, which of course got nerfed since then, and you typically just went for like part of an item, like a Spectre's Cowl, something like that. And then you went for the Righteous Glory, but does he go for the Righteous Glory now? Does he go for tank items? I guess he doesn't really need the engagement.
Kobe is putting the hurt onto Cedric, forces him away, and Senkux appears in another lane. This is so uncharacteristic from Team Dignitas, but in comes Obvious into the top lane. Dan isn't tanky yet himself after opting for the Sightstone. That is a lot being used. Binsu is a very fast horse.
And he will ultimate onto Wonderwear. The ultimate whiffs in from Dan, and Wonderwear will dredge line to the terrain. He should be out of here. Obvious, as long as he can get out, this will be a 0 casualty disengage from Dignitas, and quite a lot burnt from Mouse.
A lot used, and the Dragon is coming up in 1 minute 20. It has been such a key factor in both of the previous games. Team Dignitas lead this game 1-0 on Dragons. Now Teleport is not up for Binsu. Wonderwares will be available for the fight as well. And this Dragon fight in about a minute's time is going to be the first time we're really seeing Team Dignitas group on this Kog'Maw, who has gone from being only on a Sheen with 3,000 gold in the bank to now being Trinity Force and Bilgewater Cutlass. Corki's in a very similar spot though, so the problem is Corki doesn't have 4 people all around him.
No, Mountain does though, and yeah, good luck getting out of that one, my friend. Mountain scratching his head.
As
How did that happen?
As I was saying, the Corki is not going to be the one getting the Lulu ultimate, getting 50% extra crit. That's scary when you think about that.
Yeah. The only thing is you can't really control, because it's like when you auto-attack, it activates.
Right.
So you can't be like, all right, now, let's go. Because the active is the binding, so. That's
very true.
That's the other caveat to that, but still, if you do it at the right time.
Well, I mean, you know.
Very strong.
You're naturally going to generate the charges in the course of a fight like that. And the effects last 6 seconds, which is enough for Kog'Maw to melt through people. It also means Kog'Maw doesn't have to rely heavily on any kind of critical strike. This is you know, a unique dynamic. I'm looking forward to seeing it in action in the first actual fight. Wonderway is up in the top lane to defend. Binsu's running it down. He will not get there in time. And Team Dignitas take this one away without a fight. So the attention now goes on to the mid lane tower by the looks of things.
Yeah, Mounts couldn't go all in for that engagement because the teleport advantage was over to Wonderware, and he could just TP straight into that fight. There's the Fun Disc in the mid lane. Has been set up by Zayu. Senkux and Nisbet are just going to be zoning them away from this turret. Mounts are actually going to complete the assault here. I'm not really sure how much they can take away from this turret. The answer is pretty much nothing.
Obvious was in behind them, but the warding this time is better from Mouse when it comes to their flanks. They could see the way Wonderware was coming and from where Obvious was trying to tread through the jungle. So at this point, they weren't really at risk of getting caught out. But we have just passed the 20-minute mark. And, once again, Team Dignitas, similarly to game number 1, they're up in Dragons and up in Gold. This game has been a return to the game 1 kind of performance in the early game. And that is really going to heavily benefit Team Dignitas unless they get engaged on.
Engage from Dan, but is it enough? Because Mountain is getting destroyed already. Binsu comes into the fight, lands a good onslaught of shadows. Now Nisbet is on the receiving end of the damage. The chair comes through, but he'll be flashing away. Wonderware's dropping low, and the last rocket will tag Cobby. The disengage is successful from Dignitas.
Yeah, and that was an engage where the ult hit Cobby.
Why are you farming Raptors? Now is not the time to do that, Obvious, and he will be taken down by Dan and Cedrian, and now the middle turret will probably fall as well because of that mistake.
And Team Dignitas just used all of their defensive capabilities on Cobby, but look at the danger of the teleport play coming out from Wonderware, who did get back to base. He's teleporting in. He's looking for this mid lane fight against Sayo.
Well, he's moving very slowly. He actually finds Mounted on the side of his anchor. Nisbet comes in to follow up the CC. Emperor's Divide will shove Dignitas away from the turret and only serves to disengage for them. A good pick onto the support, but this is still a 4 versus 4.
Yeah, this is the turret going to fall now in favor of Team Dignitas, and keep in mind, the kill goes to Cobby. 2-0-1 right now, and it doesn't look like they're done pushing in the middle lane. They're going to run out of a minion wave fairly shortly and get pushed back, but they do have another one coming through the middle lane. So it'd be a little bit risky if they look to stay. Look at the mana bars. Not particularly high for Team Dignitas.
Obvious off to the side. He did use his Void Rush to try and catch up to his team, so they will back off here for now. Top lane's pushing, bot lane's pushing for Dignitas, so they have the side lanes controlled. And we'll be back off to base to pick up a couple items. We're going to see the Luden's Echo completed mid lane, the Blade of the Ruin King completed in the bottom lane for the AD carry, the Merc Treads as well. Actually going to see that last fight. Well, actually just for Obvious, taking Raptors.
I mean, you know Mouse avoided that area, so it's...
And he tunneled into it, so he had no way to get out again.
Right. Exactly. It's not the tip-top play that we would expect, but here's the teleport. This was max range hook. Oh, that's... Max range, I think, is an understatement on that hitbox. Yeah, that hitbox. Whew.
Yeah, Mountain being like, come on, man, how's that
like,
hit me?
I'm out. This is the kind of skill shot that I did.
I'm done.
Yeah,
Done so.
Oh dear, that was.
There's no other
I mean, if that hook doesn't connect, then that engage never happens in the mid lane. But it's one that you'll look back and not be particularly happy on. But you know, I was speaking about people looking particularly happy or unhappy. Beansuit in the player camera looked about a minute or so ago like he was exasperated with this game about how to get himself into it. How can he set up the flanks right now? Because that's what they have to do. They have to try and get the Hecarim in onto Kobbe and blow him up when all of the ultimates are not available for Team Dignitas. It's a real big setup. The ultimate does not quite connect.
No, only gets the 30% slow. Wonderware once again finds the hook onto Mountain. This one definitely connected onto the Braum. That was the weirdest tower siege I've ever seen. Actually, Dignitas tower sieging against the Sundisk in the mid lane at their own turret. And both of these teams are sieging against each other. This is bizarre.
And Obvious was on the other side of the map, taking a page out of Dan's book, split pushing on the Rex side in this game. So Mouse, seeing the fact that turnabout, I guess, is fair play, Mouse aren't going to be able to get a good enough engage without a mistake coming from Team Dignitas when it comes to their ultimate timers. If the Wild Growth isn't available, and they can't somehow peel with all of the Nautilus, the Alistair, that's really the only time they're going to blow up this Cogmore. The window has really started to close on Mouse on when they can actually engage. Save from a mistake where Kobbe steps forward, gets ulted solo. Real tough to fight these fights for Mouse now.
I mean, this is the strength of protect the X compositions, and specifically Cogmore in this situation. Lulu in the mid lane going to be so much AP that Kobbe's going to have a gigantic shield on him with a Wild Growth. Wonderware's going to protect him and has the Zeke's Harbinger as well. Like, Kobbe is in such a good position this game.
And the difficult spot is that, you know, if Mouse were running a little bit more like they normally would, where they're looking for a 1-3-1 setup, you have a lot more difficulty as a protect the Cogmore composition to actually defend against that, because if you don't have hard engage and the enemy team are never particularly engaging on you, you have to be together to utilize the Cogmore composition. If you're getting split push from two sides, it becomes a lot more difficult to figure out who is going to go up to those waves and clear it out. However, Mouse are not playing that style. They're trying to play more of a heavy engage style, which against this composition from Team Dignitas just has not started to work out yet. As I said, that timer is running down pretty quickly.
The anchor does not land this time onto Mountain. The poke comes across from the Sand Soldiers. Cedrian is still in the middle lane. It's going to take him a little bit of time to come into this fight. The Dragon is resetting. Mountain taking a bunch of damage. Dan looking for the initiate. Lands it onto Kobbe and Senkook. This is the perfect setup for Mouse in this team fight. And Dan will be getting into that back line. Wonderware dropping low. The disengage now comes in from Dignitas. The Dragon is now being chunked out by Mouse. Dan's low, so is Mountain. Who's going to pick up this Dragon? Actually, Dig aren't going to even try and contest it. And that will be no kills going down, but the Dragon over to Mouse.
Once the ultimates are gone, Mouse have the advantage, and they held on to the Azir ult as well, and that is the real danger there. Is had Team Dignitas had Mouse expended the Azir ult, Team Dignitas maybe could have looked to engage. They're going to look to engage with the teleport coming through here. Wall will block them off.
Obvious gets the knock up onto Mountain. He goes down. The dredge line lands onto Dan. He'll have to flash away. Nisbet looking for the minion. Taxi doesn't quite get it today. Didn't pay the fare. And Mountain will go down. A 1-0 over to Dig.
Dig can look to go Baron potentially here. Oh no, okay, they're going to split up because Big Wave top lane and Beansuit in the bottom lane. Had that not been the factor, they would have looked for a bigger objective. Beansuit's actually got this tower. Now it's just a case of stopping him and pulling away. Beansuit is well and truly trapped. He's going to try and get out. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only a matter of time. He's wasting time here, and Mouse are heading for the Baron themselves.
Sergian starting this with Sayo. They need the tank to get in range though, because Sergian does not tank Barons very well, funnily enough. That has been warded up by Dignitas, so they know that Mouse are on it, and both the carries are extremely low. The warder's about to time out. There we go. The vision is cut
Still
away from Wonderwear. Turns around, comes in, and that's a lot of damage coming in from Wonderwear. He has the extra damage from the Ziggs Harmager, remember. Senkux now comes into the fight, and now Kobe has arrived. There's the double kill, and the Baron will be going over to Dignitas now. I don't think there's anything that Mouse can do. Dan is sitting in the side, but that's been warded up.
It has been warded up. You can see how happy Broken Shard was about Mouse doing that Baron and kind of giving this one away perhaps to Team Dignitas. Now they're going to have Baron up minions as well in this setup, and man, it has become so impossibly difficult for Mouse to actually take a team fight once again. I mean, they kind of come out ahead in the fight when it comes to getting the dragon, but then Team Dignitas are able to close the gap around the map and contested the Baron. Mouse, that's just such an awkward decision that came from them. Tanking up the Baron with your carries to start, when, look at how far Sejuani was away when this play starts. I like the thought process from Mouse of how many people they saw on the bottom lane get dragged away. The problem was, Team Dignitas can close that distance by the time that Dan had actually arrived, and everybody's just low enough to get picked off.
Yeah, Wonderwear basically by himself stopped that.
Yeah.
With the ultimate, with the dredge line, the autos, with everything that Nautilus has, was able to stop them 1v4. Then with the rest of the team, that was an easy Baron take. And honestly, I mean, the expert did say, okay, well, we need to see the teams go for something else in the form of Baron, but not like that. Not like that.
That's not a Baron buff. That Baron call that is going to really work out well too many times.
Or ever.
So. Well,
I mean, if the entire enemy team is dead, yeah.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, the problem is, like, this is a lofty comparison. We've seen teams like Fnatic make that play and win because their setup is so good. When it comes to vision control, assessing summoner spells, like everything around the play is near perfect, which was not the case for Mouse in this setup. That was, we've seen 4 people towards the bot side, let's just go bottom, let's go Baron right now.
I don't disagree, Stress. We're going to see the teleport now come in by Binsu, looking for this flank, but the front line is very tanky. Binsu, his home gods are already stopped out by Kobe. Great use of his ultimate, and now the disengage just comes out from Dignitas, and Mouse don't really get anything for it.
No, they don't get much for that, but they saved the turret from Team Dignitas at that point. So Mouse are now trying to fish Team Dignitas out of the jungle, or at least just push them back away. Team Dignitas still want to fight though. Ultimate's still available when it comes to Senkux. So that Kog'Maw still has that protection available for him. Now it looks like they might want to swing to the bottom lane to take that tower down. But Kobe's headed towards the top side of the map, looking for a red buff for himself by the looks of things.
Dignitas are not necessarily making a great use of their Baron. They went to the top lane, got stopped okay by Binsu's teleport, didn't go for the push once again because they had no minions. The bottom wave was not pre-set up by them because it's now pushing in towards them, which means Wonderwear has to go down there. He doesn't have the teleport to rejoin the team. That means that everyone just has to go back, buy items, and farm the jungle. And this is a lot of time that is not being used on that Baron buff, and it's going to wear out in a couple of seconds.
Right, but Team Dignitas are setting up the waves to then look for this dragon that's coming up in just over a minute. I agree, perhaps they're not taking the most objectives with the Baron buff, but their comp is, for the most part, going to scale better. The only real scaler on the side of Mouse is going to be Sayo, and he's going to have trouble taking out Kobe the later this game goes, because those shields are going to get bigger. The heals coming through are going to get bigger, and damage output from Kobe is going to shred through Sayo. So I don't think Team Dignitas particularly mind playing the patient game in this setup, because there's so few options for Mouse to actually go for right now that they're going to get baited into a fight. However, Wonderwear top lane is going to have to teleport into this fight when it kicks off. Binsu wants to engage. A lot of engage tools have been used when it comes to a Righteous Glory, but nothing really is going to come from it. Teleport not channeled yet. Obvious does go into the fight, but it's all just chipping damage from Dig right now. Nothing has been committed, and they've already chunked a couple of the members of Mouse pretty hard.
Obvious has flash knock-up whiffed, and having a flash down for this next fight is not good.
The Wonderwear recall here. Sejuani is just about to pass a ward in the jungle and there's Home Guard. There's 3 potential teleport wards available for Wonderwear to just turn up into this fight if MOU's pushed down into the Dragon Pit, and it looks like they know it. They're going to back away and give Dig this Dragon.
Yeah, third Dragon over to Dignitas. That one from MOU's has stalled out the Dragon game. That would have been the 4th had MOU's not made that play earlier in this game. Interestingly enough, Wonderwear still hasn't bought Home Gods on his boots. We've seen 2 teleport plays from him, both of which he just arrived and you just expect him to be running super fast, and he's like, I'm Nautilus.
I guess I kind of just expected him to have Home Guards
at
this
too.
point. So interesting, he actually just bought a Ruby Crystal. And
which is around the same price.
And has 90 gold in his inventory.
Come on, man.
Right now.
That's
so that's the question, is like, is the Home Guard potential for the flank more worthwhile than a single Ruby Crystal at 33 minutes into the game? I would say so.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, remember Wonderwear, one of his focuses in this game is being next to Cobby and protecting him. If they can get an engage using a teleport flank, it's obviously going to go very well in favor of Team Dignitas, but he certainly does have his eyes on a different prize, and you can see Cobby with that little indicator to show you where he's got to go towards the Harbinger of Doom.
Oh no, Obvious has been caught out here, but he's away. He's gone. Senku's has to use his ultimate.
Yes, that is a big factor, as it's not going to be available to keep Cobby alive, but look at the setup. It doesn't seem like Team Dignitas are going to get engaged upon any time soon, and Senkux, his ult is already a third of the way through the cooldown right now, so it's not the biggest ultimate right now. 48 seconds on Wild Growth currently.
Yeah, it's not going to affect them at all, really. Baron will be up in just under a minute, and Wild Growth will definitely be up for that. Obviously, he has Flash anyway, so ultimately they didn't lose too much.
Home Guards completed.
Oh, yeah!
Get the Ruby Crystal and the Home Guards, but Senkux is going to lose out one-on-one. No ultimate for himself in that situation. That now really is a questionable play to push up that far.
That's also a problem, because his death timer is longer than when the Baron is going to spawn. Right. So Mouse can start putting at least vision pressure around the area. It's 4 versus 5 for the next 30 seconds. And it's not like Senkux has a teleport. Yeah, he's got the Whimsy, but it's going to take him a while to walk over there. The
problem is Mouse somehow have to push down into the Baron pit right now. It's going to be made easier by the fact Team Dignitas have just recalled, and I believe were on ward when they did it. So that does make it a lot easier for Mouse to actually contest here. Mouse have pushed up with 4 people into the Baron pit and have been so on the top side. I doubt they'll start it this time around.
Yeah. Well, they're clearing out the wards. That's the main thing here.
Senkux still in base, so a stray ult from Dan. They've started it. They back away instantly. I mean, that's the tell that it's not worth starting this Baron. If your next decision, a second and a half later, is to back away, Dan
on a ward.
Dan recalling on a ward. How many? That's a lot of recalling on a ward that we've seen in today's games. And Team Dignitas now get full control of the Baron pit. I say full control. They did not get
partial control.
That ward that is inside. Awkward ward placement. Didn't go in there with the Oracle's vision to clear it out. Wonderwear, however, clearing out the bottom lane. Trying to just draw Binsu down there as well. Both teleports are available. Wonderwear's going to back away. There are wards here for a flank from mid lane. The turret has already gone down, though, in favor of Mouse. Looks like they want to set up. Here comes the TP.
Yeah, and he's got Home Gods this time around, and that's a very big Nautilus. Comes in for the swing, doesn't land onto Sao as he flashes away. Sejun turns around with the damage. He is extremely strong right now. Dan gets a big ultimate onto 3 players, followed by the onslaught of shadows by Binsu, but he's instantly turned into a squirrel, and now Mountain will be dragged into that team. Sao jumps into the back lines. That's a big Emperor's Divide onto 4 players, but Dignitas are so damn tanky, it basically does nothing. Dan is being chased down by Senkux, looking for the last couple autos, and that will be the Glitterlance finishing him off. Meanwhile, Cobby is going to town onto Cetrian at 3-0, and the map is Dignitas' oyster.
Cobby was untouched for so much of that fight. There was just absolutely no focus from Mouse because they couldn't get to him. They couldn't get onto Cobby, and when they did, he was just instantly McHale's out of the crowd control and just turned around for even more damage. If fights go that way every time for Team Dignitas, this is going to be a very easy game to close out right now. They've taken their small lead and compounded it now into a big, big lead. against Mouse. Man, this is going to be a tough game for Mouse to come back with. This is basically done for Game 3 of this series.
10,000 gold ahead, and we're going to see how they manage to get to that point, Stress.
So Sayo gets his flash burned here to get away from the hook, but Team Dignitas aren't even at this point looking to peel for Kobe yet because nobody is on him. He's on the top side of your screen. The ult hits him. Finally, he manages to get away there as the ult times out before Mouse can actually go aggressive. And at this point, Lulu didn't even have to use her ult onto Kobe either. At this point, there was just no real ability from Mouse to focus on the key points of Team Dignitas, and then Kobe just turns it off.
Yeah, right at the very end here. What are you going to do up against Obvious and Kobe? Nothing. Die. That's what's going to happen. Gone for the Static Shiv and the Infinity Edge. With those two items combined, plus the 50% from the Zeeks, you're basically 100%.
Yes.
Turns out that does a lot of damage, as we saw in that last fight. So, Obvious puts up the Prey Seeker across the wall. The Dragon is spawning. This will be the 4th, so Mouse don't necessarily have to fight over this, and probably shouldn't. But it will put a lot of pressure on them because Dignitas next Dragon comes up in 6 minutes.
I don't actually think we're going to get to Dragon number 5 here unless they catch Obvious out. Senkux isn't with the team here, but Mouse don't want to fight this.
No,
they don't see where
Bitsu is getting destroyed, and the Wonderwear has the CC as well. The hook goes wide right underneath the boar that Dan is riding. And we'll have to back away here. Obvious looking for a knockup. Emperor's Divide will zone Dignitas away. Cedric looking for the kill onto Rek'Sai. Doesn't quite get it as Wonderwear is there to protect him. Nisbet looking for the engage underneath this tower. He is very tanky. He's got the Unbreakable Will. He can tank this tower for centuries. And now they'll move on to Cedric. He goes down. Triple kill over to Kobe. He just destroys the lineup from Mouse. A 4-0, and this could be the final push.
This is the final push for Team Dignitas. They're going to shred through this turret very quickly. A massive change up in style for Team Dignitas, and it has worked so very well right now. Protect the Cogmore has been insanely strong for Team Dignitas.
And Team Dignitas EU take the 3rd game in convincing fashion up against Mousesports.
And this puts them 1 game away, Pulse, from the LCS for the spring split in the 2016 season.
Match point. This is a difficult position for Mouse to be in, but a great one for Dignitas. You can see them on screen. That is a big confidence boost in this best of 5. 2-1 over to Dignitas.
Well, the analyst test said they had to change something up, and it was the entire style changed up for Team Dignitas. It echoed what we heard at the beginning of the day with, you know, making Senkux and the rest of the team play in different styles, different focuses, not all about yourself, and it certainly worked. Kobe ended that game 9-0-3. And yeah, his damage done to champions compared to the rest of his team is pretty much almost double of what Senkux was doing. Just a really solid game this time out of Team Dignitas. They got a lead in the laning phase, couple of messy team fights, but overall the game was lost at the point where Mouse could never get the engages on Team Dignitas. As soon as that Cogmore had the Lulu ult on him, so tough with a head-on team fight comp like the Sejuani. They couldn't get the flank from the Hecarim either. Very tough.
Yeah, a smart, clean game by Dignitas, and yeah, essentially that's what we were expecting from them coming into this series, and we kind of saw the main strengths of Mouse in the last game, and now the main strengths of Dignitas in this one. So now it's time for Mouse to try and come back. But Team Dignitas EU is just 1 game away from clinching a spot in the 2016 European LCS, and Mousesports need to make their last stand now if they want to keep that fight alive. Before we step away, Nisbet tells us why a strong early game will be Team Dignitas' key to victory in this series.
I think all of us are